Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Comms Coffee Club podcast. It's also the week before Christmas, so this is a little Christmas special with me, Max Forsyth, Managing Director and founder of Comms Search and Selection, the executive search and recruitment firm covering the in-house communications market across the UK and the US, and also the host of the Comms Coffee Club podcast. So, what are we going to be featuring today? So, to wrap up the end of the year and looking forward to 2024, I thought we would start by talking about some good news and some nice research which has come out from another exec search firm actually called Spencer Stuart around the rise of the CCO, or Chief Communications Officer, in Fortune 500 companies. We'll cover that, and also what the landscape looks like in the UK, and also there's a little comment on Japan as well, which is quite interesting given Japan's culture and quite conservative business nature. We will also be discussing a poll I did on LinkedIn last week regarding communications hiring processes and job search and how long each process is taking, with some slightly depressing stats. So we'll talk through that, and hopefully it'll be a better year in 2024 and employers can start to actually walk the talk when it comes to EVP, which I think quite a few of them are doing themselves a bit of a disservice at the moment. Thirdly, bit of Christmas cheer as well. We can't not have a quick look at and talk about Blackstone's Christmas video. I think it's great, and we'll get onto that in a bit. And then finally, couldn't not have this without talking about, from a crisis comms perspective, we have a new channel, X or Twitter, live streams featuring James O'Keefe, who's a new media journalist, and IBM and Red Hat. It's all kicked off on X, live streams, you name it. It's a bit of a spat, but I thought it'd be quite interesting to talk through from a comms perspective, how you could try and manage that, mitigate it, etc. Not going to get too much into the details of whether the story or thing is valid or not. I'm not a lawyer, but we'll just talk about it from a comms perspective. And that should wrap up 2023's Comms Coffee Club podcast. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, up first is this is the insights piece from Stephanie Roberts, who is a head of global communications. Who, LinkedIn top voice. I'm connected to her on LinkedIn, and she's great. She shares some really interesting stuff. So this is a report that came out this year from Spencer Stuart, the exec search firm, with a really surprising statistic, actually, that 410 out of 500 out of the Fortune 500 companies have a CCO in place, or Chief Communications Officer, which I thought was remarkable, actually, and really a lot higher than what I thought it was going to be if I was going to pluck a figure out of the air. Comms professionals that I know, it's always been a bit of a challenge sometimes. One around headcount, budget, etc. But often, particularly here in the UK, how can communications heads, directors sell their value back into the C-suite? It's very difficult to put a monetary value on a lot of what comms does. Unlike sales or marketing, where there are much more black and white metrics that you can link back to, track, evaluate, stick in your ball packs. A lot of the communications work and function is often slightly dark arts, if you like, and particularly from a reputation point of view, it's often what is kept out of the news rather than necessarily what necessarily always makes it in. And obviously what's kept out of the news, it's quite hard to track that. You kept it out of the news, so there's no clicks, there's no impressions, there's no stories, there's no journalists after you. So that can be quite difficult to be able to turn around as a head of comms or comms director and say, look, I've kept 5 stories out of the press this year, and what's the monetary value on that? I think we've all seen, there'd been some very high profile corporate fallings out over the last few years across a number of industries. Look, some of which were going to come out anyway, but was perhaps not necessarily handled in the best way, or the communications was lacking. And when you look into it, these are companies where they haven't had a CCO in place, and they haven't had that board level reputation advisor being able to steer the board and CEO through a crisis. Certainly here in the UK, probably the most high profile one this year was Dame Alison Rose, who was chief executive of NatWest Group, and the debanking scandal crisis with Nigel Farage and the fallout of that and how that was handled. If you look at NatWest Group, they don't have a strong set of senior communications people in there operating at that the board and SLT level. Everyone in their comms team who is good, but they sit further down the pecking order. And without being able to influence and steer that, I think that could have been handled a lot better by NatWest. And ultimately, that led to Alison Rose losing her job. NatWest came out a few weeks ago, and she's not getting her share options and bonus for the last financial year either. So it really does have a lot of knock-on effects. So that's some great news that Stephanie Roberts shared around the number of CCOs in Fortune 500 companies is really great. And just for clarity's sake, just to give you a bit of a picture of the UK, and this is what it looks like in the FTSE 100s. This is some research done by the CIPR, so the Chartered Institute of Public Relations, which is a big PR membership body, particularly here in the UK. And they found that almost half of FTSE 100 boards and executive leadership teams lack a director of comms, director of corporate affairs, or similar dedicated position. Um, yeah, to me, that's not a shocking stat. I think, if I was going to put my finger in the air and guess where it was, I'd have said around that. But I still think it says a lot that FTSE businesses have a long way to go before they can really say that they have taken reputation into account. I know that those FTSE 100s, by and large, they will all have a reputation advisor, and that is likely to be outsourced. Whether that's whether it's a Brunswick or an FTI, Lansons, etc. I mean, they've been through so many mergers over the last couple of years that I think they're all called different things now. But you get my drift. And I think if there was one hope for 2024, it would be for boards and senior leadership teams in FTSE 100s, FTSE 250s, AIM listed here in the UK, and other medium and large sized commercial enterprises. Most of them will have an HR person on the board. Most of them will have a marketing person on the board. You really need to think hard about having that comms person on the board. Reputationally, of course, mitigating reputational damage, but also think about all the positive things that a communications leader at board level can do. They're often fantastic problem solvers. They're the glue. They'll join the dots. They'll put things together. Actually, their role is not just keeping news out of the on keeping stories out of the news, or even proactively selling stories in and getting you a profile in the FT or anything like that. Of course, that's a little bit of the job, but a lot of it is, they can help you make your company run a lot better and get that messaging and tone of voice really, really crystal clear, that, one can support your sales teams in winning new business, retaining clients from an operational perspective, gluing everyone together with really good comms. Large businesses, when it comes to transformation communications, digital communications, change programs, lots and lots of large companies are in near constant states of change and flux. And having that board level communications person can help you guide through that, make your business run more efficiently. So really think about it. And there's also we'll come on to it in a minute, but the poll I ran around EVP, for example, and comms jobs interview timelines, all of this is stuff that's quite easily fixable, and a senior communications person can really help you to spot and deal with a lot of those issues. They're known as people that go beyond their remit. They don't like a problem sitting on their desk, so they'll help you solve it. And then there was another interesting point as well from Stephanie. Kind of just going back to her post in one of the comments here. Um, and she still said the FTSE less than half is still way higher than what the situation is in Japan, where she's currently based. That's quite interesting for me. I haven't done a lot of Japanese comms recruitment, but I think when you think about the culture, Japan, often very conservative businesses are run like that. You don't leave your desk until your boss does, and so on. And it's very much the opposite of a meritocracy. It's you listen to your elders, but it's interesting that they don't necessarily have those CCOs in place, and that'd be interesting to see whether that changes. So on to the next piece. Yes, this is the poll I ran on LinkedIn last week. Actually, it's still got a day or two to go. But the question was, how long is the recruitment process taking, or your most recent process taking? And this question was aimed at communications hiring managers and communications candidates who are in process. Now, this to me was quite shocking. There is absolutely no reason why, if everyone is brought together and all the stakeholders are brought in, why a recruitment process, actually even for senior roles, you can do it in less than a month if everyone really pulls together. Particularly if you engage a headhunter or a recruiter like me, of course, and com search and selection. You can have the brief. You can do a decent search now in a week. LinkedIn Recruiter, all the digital channels, email, social, WhatsApp, phone, of course, meetings, you name it. You can actually get a really decent shortlist pulled together in a week. You can schedule first interviews for the following week, so that's 2 weeks, second for the third week, and then third and final in the fourth week. So, look, it can be done in less than a month. Obviously, I appreciate, a lot of businesses have multiple competing priorities. So even under 2 months, that's giving you a bit of leeway, but that should be more than attainable and more than achievable. And of course, as my poll results have come out here, these are some pretty depressing stats. You've got, you know, just, so 38% are taking less than 2 months. So you've got, 62% that are taking longer than 2 months, which is unacceptable. And a staggering 22% are taking 4 months or longer. It's just not on. But, it's a waste of everyone's time, particularly on candidates. And often in this market as well, there are good candidates looking, have either been made redundant, they're looking for a new role, their contracts come to an end. Internally as well, the knock-on effects of not having someone in post for X amount of months. Think about how much time the hiring manager is having to take out of their already busy schedule to cover, to cover this role. Also, team members doing that too. What's the knock-on effect in terms of things like burnout, team morale, hiring manager morale? The list is endless of all of the knock-on negatives of having extremely long recruitment processes like this. It does no one any favors. You've got those, you've got those really negative effects there, but also think about the opportunities missed. Just think about the opportunities missed. And when you've got someone in post, someone knows what they're doing, they're productive from day one. They're generating value for you, your business, and your company. And yeah, as I said, there is absolutely no reason why you can't get an interview process done in under a month. And at an absolute limit, it should be done in less than 2. So here's hoping for 2024 that we, if I rerun this poll in 6 months' time in the summer, that over half can now be done under 2 months. If anyone needs any help, by the way, in mapping that out, need some help, they can't find the right candidates, the process is crazy, or whatever, please do drop me an email or drop me a DM. You can get me at max.forsyth@commssearch.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. More than happy to have a chat with you and to discuss, how we can reduce that time, get someone in place quicker, more productive, great talent, and hopefully that'll be a much better 2024 than 2023. Now, if any of you are on X or Twitter, as it used to be called, um, this all kicked off last week between the CEO of IBM and some of the board members at Red Hat and James O'Keefe, who refers to himself on X as a guerrilla journalist, a CEO of O'Keefe Media. Uh, I guess why I wanted to mention this was, look, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of IBM or Red Hat's DE and I policy and et cetera, et cetera. That's not my area of specialism, and yeah, and that's a conversation for another day. But I think from a communications perspective, and particularly a crisis comms perspective, it's really, really, really interesting. I think if everyone, even 5 years ago, you think of crisis communications from a media perspective, and I guess what keeps you up at night is, a journalist from the FT or the Times or the Washington Post or the BBC or the New York Times, calling you up and, saying they've got leads and sources on X story and, kind of what's your comment? We're going to go to press in 12 hours. With with things like X and the new media, as people like to call it, um, it's just another channel to monitor. But also, I think the speed at which, excuse me, the speed at which these stories can unravel, and also I think there's a, they throw the media relations rule book out of the window in some respects of at least giving companies a chance to comment before going to print, etc. James O'Keefe is pretty controversial from a journalist point of view, but it's turned into a real mess, and the live streaming element as well. So they ran a live stream on X at the end of last week. So recording this on Tuesday, 19th of December. So this is the middle of last week, and if you haven't seen it, basically to give you a bit of an overview, let me see if I can find it on their timeline down here. Oh, that's the CEO of IBM has blocked James O'Keefe on X. It just, I mean, again, just imagine someone saying that 5 years ago. It just wouldn't happen. It's just quite mad. But yeah, they ran a live stream last week, and they basically got quite a few current and former IBM and Red Hat employees who are dialing in to this live stream to basically put the boot in to IBM and Red Hat, and it went viral. And yeah, it's mad. I think we'd had a couple of examples of corporates where I think disgruntled employees or former employees, had been screen recording internal town halls on Teams or Zoom, and then sending those to journalists or spreading them on LinkedIn. That's led to the resignations of some of some very high up execs. Bill Michael at KPMG probably being the most high profile of them. But this whole idea of these sort of guerrilla journalists and media outlets being able to run a live stream on X and be able to get really disgruntled current and former employees on there, you know, slagging IBM and slagging Red Hat off, and slagging your company off. I think yeah, it's a real challenge for comms teams, and yeah, not just guerrilla journalism, but also this new trend of employee activism. And yeah, I guess from an internal comms and engagement point of view, what do you do? Do you keep do you keep all of your channels open on Slack, Teams, LinkedIn, SharePoint, etc., and just hope stuff like this doesn't necessarily get out? I think there's an element of uh, larger companies that probably definitely slightly more vulnerable to this. We talked about KPMG, but if you look at if you think about IBM and Red Hat, and just the pure number and volume of employees they've got around the world, I think it's very, very difficult for them to be able to um, control against a lot of this. If something snowballs, it can snowball pretty quickly. But I think from a communications perspective, what you need to have is I do think you need to get on the front foot, quickly, and you need to have almost like a crisis comms plan in place for this, and have lines to take. I certainly think, yeah, with the new media and X and Twitter, even just necessarily putting out a written statement, probably doesn't do it now. I think you need your execs to be able to record something on camera, and you know there's there's I think there's very little public and even media tolerance now of anything that read, looks, or sounds too scripted and too much like a PR person has written it, or an old school PR person. So I think everybody, yeah, needs to be really conscious of that, and have some authentic things to be able to push back on. And if we take the IBM and Red Hat example, if the DE&I piece is really what you believe and what you think as a company. Of course, I mean, as long as it's legal, I think, yeah, there's definitely, yeah, some stuff in the states that, I'm not a US lawyer by any means, but there's but as long as what you're doing is legal and it's what you believe in as a company, you need to have those lines to take in place. And you need to be training your execs on this and what to do when it happens. And yeah, you really need to get on the front foot, because I think the way that social media works and virality, if you don't get in there to try and nip it, it's just going to spiral and just keep spiraling. So yeah, really interesting thing to see. And I wonder how this will play out next year. I'll be interested to see, yeah, how the IBM and Red Hat piece plays out. But I think, yeah, certainly for companies at large, yeah, looking at new media, and yeah, and social media platforms and X and live streams, and just be conscious of having plans in place to be able to deal with that. And finally, yeah, just to end the year on a high, I just wanted to share. Um, so, if you haven't seen it already, Blackstone have done a brilliant holiday video. Um, yeah, it's a really light-hearted poke from Blackstone at themselves, really. And I think for a lot of people that work outside Blackstone, and you speak to candidates, etc., it can come across as quite a brutal working environment. And by brutal, obviously, let's put it into perspective. It's financial services, it's corporate, but it's it can be quite rigid in its working practices and how they go, and how they do it. And yeah, they're very successful, but yeah, culture wise, I think it suits some people, and but doesn't suit a lot. And yeah, this was just a really nice Christmas take on everything. Yeah, on Blackstone really taking the piss out of themselves. And yeah, it was a fantastic watch. Really made me chuckle. Really made me laugh. And I think what I really liked was, particularly coming from a company like Blackstone that has an image and a reputation of being, perhaps being something else from a cultural perspective. Actually, a lot of people come across really well in it. It's really light-hearted and it's great. And a special shout out as well to John Gray, who I think really needs a sitcom of his own. He was genuinely great, and actually, it looked like a really decent A-list actor in it. So yeah, I just thought we'd play a minute or two of this, and yeah, let me know what you think. But I think it was a really nice way to open up the holiday season, and to finish this episode on. So let me play a couple of minutes for you.
Lore! Genius! Emergency meeting, right now!
Another one. This all started when John went to see Taylor Swift's Eras Tour.
Yeah, he claimed he only went to take his daughters, but I heard he packed multiple outfit changes.
Now he's following her around the world.
I had to give him my ticket.
Ever since he went to that concert, he's acting like he discovered Taylor Swift.
Has anyone here heard of Taylor Swift?
Yes.
No. I mean, yes.
We've been going about everything wrong. We need to go on tour like Taylor, and we will raise $1 billion.
John, we managed to raise $1 trillion professionally explaining our disciplined and thematic approach to investing. Can't we just stick with that?
Fireworks, glow sticks, those little helmets with the ice cream.
This is gonna replace fundraising?
We're gonna have it all. Oh no. And then an epic performance starring us.
His idiocy knows no bounds.
Seriously.
We're on mute, right?
For sure.
Nope.
This is obviously a great idea, John, but...
Maybe we run it by Steve?
Yes, good idea.
There's no way Steve would let something this ridiculous happen at Blackstone.
Go on tour? Like Taylor Swift? But a Blackstone version? I love it.
Do you think we're more fearless?
All right. So if you want to watch the rest of that, just go on Blackstone LinkedIn profile and you'll find it on their post. But yeah, look, kind of really nice, lighthearted, kind of poke at themselves, and really well shot. And I love it. So yeah, hopefully some of the other big boys in financial services and asset management can come up with something similar for next Christmas. That would be great, wouldn't it? So I thought we'd wrap up with that. Let me put myself back on screen. Kind of thank you very much to everyone who has listened and watched all the Comms Coffee Club episodes this year, the first 10. We interviewed some great guests from across Fortune 500, FTSE 100, 250, blue chip professional and financial services firms, chatting all about things comms, corporate comms, PR, their favorite CEOs to work for. It's been great. I've loved interviewing everybody. Really hope that you've enjoyed everyone's insights too. And we'll be back in the new year with more interviews with lots of other comms leaders from across more blue chips. We've already got recording sessions in the diary for January. So keep an eye out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or your preferred podcast app. Also, quick note as well, we've had a little refresh on our website. So if you go to commssearch.com, you'll find all of the audio players and the YouTube videos on our homepage too. So you can find everything in one place. What else do I need to mention? I think that was pretty much it. Please do leave a comment on any topics or people you would like us to interview in the new year as well. We've already got guests lined up for Jan, we'll be looking to book people in to record in February. So really looking forward to that. And in the meantime, don't forget to drop me a follow on LinkedIn or drop me a DM as well if we can help you with your communications, recruitment, hiring plans for 2024. And enjoy your Christmas. Have a lovely Christmas holidays and New Year. And we will see you in January. Take care.